Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Steph, and if you're new here, I'm Steph. So I previously did an introduction to this, but I don't feel like I explained it very well. So basically I had this idea that some could call dumb, stupid, if you will, but I am a barista at heart. I love making coffee drinks. I love making matchas at home. Matcha is one of my favorite teas to make, and I make them a lot. You've probably seen them in my vlogs if you watch my vlogs, because it just seems to be the thing that I like to take B-roll of. One of my besties on here, Erin from Booked and Busy, she always sends me really cool matcha recipes on Instagram, and I was like, I need to make a few of these, and I was just gonna make them for myself, maybe vlog the process at one point, because why not, you know? B-roll is cool. But then I had a brain blast and I was like, what if I make these TikTok, Instagram drinks and then I taste them and match them to the vibe of a book, and I read that book. Like I said, some may call this stupid. I think it's a good time because not only am I getting to make really cool drinks that are potentially very delicious, I will hopefully be reading books that I really like. So moving into the next clip, I will be talking about 2 drinks that I made and 2 books that I picked that match those vibes. So the first drink that I ended up making, I actually make this kind of every summer. It's something that's refreshing, but also like sometimes water's just boring. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's just face facts. Sometimes water's boring and you have to spice it up. You squeeze in half a lemon, you slice up the rest of the lemon, put it in the drink. It's like a tablespoon of chia seed or whatever you want, just some water. You let the chia seed sit for a little bit so that it can congeal, because that's what chia seed does in water. And you drink it, and it's not a beautiful drink by any means, but it is pretty good. You know, the other thing you can do if you like things less tart is add some honey to it. I love chia seeds though. I like the texture of chia seeds, but this is very tart, very summery. Reminds me of like the ocean, going to a pool, you know, being outside, wanting to refresh yourself, right? So I thought, what's quintessential like summer reading? And if it's not a romance, it's a pirate book. So I'm gonna read Crossbones. This is a pirate book. Apparently, if you love Pirates of the Caribbean like I do, then the second drink is the one that Erin sent me that kind of inspired this. It is a strawberry matcha. It is your choice of plant milk, so I picked oat milk. And then it is fresh strawberries. I just put 2 like medium size one and 1 small size one in there. And then I added honey because I do kind of like a little bit of sweetness, and sometimes strawberries aren't as sweet as I want them to be, right? They're a little bit tart, so I added some honey and you blend it up. And then you put it over ice and it looks like this, and we're gonna taste it. That's actually really good. It reminds me of like a smoothie. Brain blast right now. Imagine instead of putting oat milk in here, you put lemonade. I think I have the book though. I think I know what I'm gonna choose. Okay, I'm gonna choose the Stardust Thief. This is just a dust jacket because I have started this book in the past. I only got like a quarter of the way through until the Farseer trilogy took over my life. So I do really wanna finish this, and I feel like this drink is deceiving because you just think, oh, this is just a little, it's a matcha, right? It's a matcha. You take a sip, it's a strawberry matcha. It's deceiving. There's a thief in here. She's thieving. She's a thief. See what I'm saying? Anyway, those are the first 2 books that we're gonna read. Hello. I'm gonna try to make this quick because I am in my work parking lot and it is hot as hell. But on my break, I was reading Crossbones. And, you know, I'm just not in the mood for this, I feel, and I don't know if it's something that I want to come back to. I'm pretty sure Robin Hobb just ruined me for pirate books, which sucks because I was very excited about this one. But there's just something about the writing and the fact that it continuously has to remind me that it's a pirate book that I'm just not vibing with it. The other thing is I don't even remember the characters' names half the time. So you have 2 main characters and they had a intimate relationship at one point, and then the male character in here, he turns on the female character, and she almost got hung in the beginning of the book, and then she got saved by her sister, and so she's like, I'm gonna get this fucker back one way or another. So you go back and forth between each of their perspectives, and you learn a little bit about them and a little bit about their relationship. You go back and forth between past and present, but I'm really not far. I'm like 115-ish pages, I guess, and I'm having a hard time retaining this book too, which is something that makes me realize that I need to DNF it, because I keep going back to remind myself things. I don't even remember the characters' names, and I truly think it's me. I don't think it's the book. I don't think this is a bad book. I think that Robin Hobb ruined me for pirate books, and I literally just finished Ship of Magic not that long ago, so I just feel like this was not the right time to pick this book up, because I'm just constantly comparing it to Robin Hobb. So I don't think this will be a DNF for good. I do want to come back to this and try again, but I want to try it when I'm definitely further away from Robin Hobb than I am right now, because I still haven't even finished that series, so it's what I'm thinking about and wanting to read. So I just think that it'll be best if I DNF this right now. But that's not necessarily saying anything about how good this book is, because it's not badly written. The only problem I have with the writing is just the reminder that it's a pirate book, and it could just be me again with my whole Robin Hobb thing. So yeah, I think that's a DNF, which probably is for the best, because I've already filmed like the drink portions of this vlog, and wow, why did I choose so many drinks? Anyway, I'm gonna go because I am sweating. Hello, good morning. My hair is something. I just threw it up in like a random bun because I'm about to go work out. But I did realize that I haven't really updated about the Stardust Thief, and I am a little over halfway through. I think the reason I didn't really give any updates about it is because I would say that the first quarter I was enjoying it, but I wasn't like deep into the story. I wasn't attached to any of the characters. I didn't understand where the plot was going completely. And so the combination of not being super attached to characters and then the plot being a little bit slow moving, I was having trouble wanting to pick it up. And then I finally was like, Stephanie, you need to just listen for a good chunk of time, because I have been listening to this book in like small increments. Haven't had a lot of time to read this week. It's throwing me off. Are any of y'all like that? When your routine is thrown off, everything feels weird, because I am very much routine oriented. I need to have my routine to some degree. Like, I am a go with the flow type of person, but there are certain things in my routine that just have to kind of go the way that I need them to go, or I feel really off. But yesterday I like dedicated a lot of time to listening to it, and let me tell you, I'm really into it now. I think the halfway point, a little over the halfway point, really took a turn. There was a plot twist that happened. There's a couple plot twists that happened, and I got really invested into the story. I'm still iffy about the characters and how I feel about the characters. I'm especially worried that there's going to be a romance that plays out that I don't think I'll care about. Those are my thoughts. I'm going to go work out now and hate every second of it. So I finished this and I am settling on 4 stars. I didn't actually think it would be a 4 stars, but I enjoyed the last half, but especially the last quarter a lot. The first half is fine. Like, it's kind of boring a little bit. And this is especially coming from somebody who, like, I like slow-paced things, but it's more so if I'm connected to the characters and I'm like really interested in where they're going as characters. And I think I mentioned in my last update, like, I'm not very connected to these characters. And even in the end, I felt like my connection to them was better, but I still feel like these characters are not going to stick out to me a month from now. You know what I mean? Like, this was a really fun book and I had a lot of fun getting through it, specifically the last half, but like, these characters aren't really gonna stick in my brain. I'm definitely gonna have to reread this when the second book comes out, but there were a lot of plot twists in here that I enjoyed and I thought were really fun and I didn't see coming, but maybe that's just because I wasn't that invested in the plot for a time. So I was like, oh shit. But it was really fun. in the end, and I realized that I did have a good time reading it. I think one of the things in here that I really loved is the lore that's being told to you. So there's like sections that are stories. Like this one is called The Tale of the Queen of Dunes, and so they look like this. And they're sprinkled throughout the book, and I love getting that because it makes the world feel a little more real when you have this lore that's been created that's being told through stories, and storytelling is a really big part of this book. Those were some of my favorite parts when we would get to the lore. But I don't think I told you what this book really is about. So The Stardust Thief is actually a retelling of the Arabian Nights. But basically, The Stardust Thief is set in a desert backdrop where jinn have kind of tried to separate themselves from humans because their blood is coveted. Their blood has the ability to heal. It can heal wounds. It can heal the earth. A drop of jinn blood will grow like a whole forest right then and there. It's brought people back from the dead, basically. So their blood is very coveted, but jinn are also hated, and so they are hunted. And we have three main characters in here, one of them being the Midnight Merchant, and she is somebody who dabbles in finding jinn like trinkets that are magically enhanced, and so people covet them because they want this magic. But she is definitely not somebody who's like, I think that jinn should be hunted, because as a matter of fact, she has a bodyguard who found her when she was younger and is jinn, and she knows his identity and what he is, and he saved her life. So they have a very special type of relationship, and she actually is pretty against people trying to kill jinn. And then you have Prince Mazen, and Prince Mazen is the youngest of the Sultan's sons, and his mother was killed by a jinn when he was younger, so his father kind of locks him up in the castle and doesn't let him do anything. But he sneaks out a lot to go listen to stories in the square because he loves storytelling. Storytelling is in his blood. His mother used to tell stories. And so that's actually how Luli and Mazen meet, is he sneaks out to go to the square and he gets himself into some trouble, and she kind of saves his life. After that incident, Luli goes to the Sultan's keep to kind of spy on Mazen and make sure that he's okay. She gets caught by Mazen's older brother, Omar, and Omar hunts jinn. He's not a perspective in this story, but he is a big part of the story. And then you have Aisha, who is she's a hunter, so she hunts jinn, and she's sent on a mission. Like I said, I had a really fun time with this, especially in the second half near the end. I will read the second one, and I'll probably reread this whenever the second one comes out. So we've made a cinnamon honey matcha latte. So the recipe for this is I add a little bit of cold water, and technically a serving of matcha is 1 tablespoon. You can totally measure that out, but I eyeball it because I kind of know by now how much I like. And then you blend that, obviously similar to the other ones. Then you are going to blend some oat milk, depending on what size you're making. I think I did about 1.5 ounces of oat milk. That is my milk of choice. It can be any milk that you like. To that, you will add some honey and cinnamon, and you're gonna blend that. Again, the recipe I think has more precise measurements. I added a lot of honey because I like it a little bit sweeter. I also think honey doesn't really overpower matcha the way that like vanilla or other sweeteners do, so I added a little bit more than maybe necessary. As for the cinnamon, again, I eyeballed it. I think I did like 2 shakes of cinnamon, and then you blend that up. It is going to take a little bit longer because honey and cold things, you know, harder to blend, but it does blend. It doesn't all go to the bottom. Then you add ice and you combine it. So I've actually never tried cinnamon in a matcha, so this is going to be interesting. I've never even thought of those together. Like, to me, cinnamon goes in hot chocolates or chai, even coffee. Like, coffee tastes good with cinnamon. Those seem like the things for it. But matcha it's never crossed my mind. So I am a little bit nervous that I'm not gonna like the cinnamon in here, but I'm still gonna drink it. I think this is my favorite. I did add a little too much cinnamon. That cinnamon truly makes so much difference. So I added a little bit too much cinnamon, and a big reason for that is I'm also very much a chai girl. I love chai and I really like it cinnamony. So I kind of just added as much cinnamon as I would add to a chai. I'm not saying it's bad with the amount of cinnamon that I used, but I don't know if other people feel this way, but when you have too much cinnamon, it like dries out your mouth for some reason. I don't know. Anyway, the book that I wanted to pick for this is going to be a thriller, like a classic thriller. It just came out because I think that this is a very classic take on a matcha, but there's a twist. Thrillers have twists. We're gonna read House Across the Lake by Riley Sager because it is inspired by Rear Window, which is a classic thrillery movie by Alfred Hitchcock. I actually really enjoyed that movie and I'm excited to see what Riley Sager does. I have no real opinions on Riley Sager. I've read one book. I'm interested in one other. I always hear mixed opinions. So that is the book we're gonna read. Trying to move back. I did some sprints with Aaron. We got done like an hour or so ago and I finished The House Across the Lake. I didn't enjoy this book. I gave it 2 stars and it's definitely, I don't know in the range of like low or high 2 stars how I feel about it. So I never really gave any updates about it because I read it pretty quickly. Basically, this is supposed to be a Rear Window retelling of sorts, like a reimagining of Rear Window. And you have this woman named Casey. She's famous for different things, but primarily because she has an alcohol problem and she's been in the tabloids because of her alcoholism. Her alcoholism started after her husband drowned at the lake house that they live. So a tabloid caught Casey on a bender, I guess, and Casey's mom, who is also very famous, decided that she needed to sequester Casey to the lake house to kind of recover and figure her life out. So in the midst of Casey's sequestering to the lake house, she kind of makes friends with across the way neighbors. They're also famous. Everybody in this book is famous by some means, like they're known for something. She makes friends with the across the way neighbors, but she's also like very intrigued in their marriage and like how they ended up being married. And the woman, who I can't even remember her name, I think her name is Claire, she's made some offhand comments that made Casey a little bit uncomfortable and weary of their relationship. So she has a pair of binoculars. She starts spying on them. She thinks she sees some nefarious activities happening between, let's call her Claire. I think her name is Claire and her husband. So she, you know, launches a full-on personal investigation. There were a couple plot twists in here. I thought that I had a galaxy brain moment and that I called the plot twist, but no one on earth could have called this damn plot twist, is all I'm saying. Also, there were like multiple plot twists, which, you know, can be really fun, and I probably wouldn't have minded it had the plot twists not been just not for me. They weren't for me, which is interesting because in theory, one of these plot twists, I would have really been all about it, but you couldn't really explain it in context to what was already happening in the plot. Like, it just did not make sense. And I was like, what the hell is happening right now? And further, you know, the first 60% of this book isn't that interesting. So anyway, I gave this a 2 stars. I'm gonna give Riley Sager one other chance because I own one of his other books, but otherwise, I don't know if this man is for me, is all I'm saying. I fear that this video is never gonna end because Erin keeps sending me really delicious looking recipes. And I even said to her, you have to stop sending me recipes. So the latest creation is this, and it's gonna look similar to pretty much everything else, but this is a turmeric cinnamon honey matcha. And I don't know if I like turmeric in drinks, but I'm always intrigued by it, so I wanted to make this because I actually did have some turmeric. So This is basically like how I make a classic matcha. So you have the water and the matcha. I put some honey in it and blended it up. And then like usual, I chose oat milk again, and I put that in one of my steaming pitchers. I added like 2 shakes of cinnamon, 1.5 shakes of turmeric because I'm still not sure how much I'll like this. And then I frothed that until it had like a good foamy consistency, and I combined the two. And so we have this drink. I'm excited because I really liked the cinnamon matcha. So hopefully this is just a little spicier. I feel like the cinnamon overpowers the turmeric, but you do have like a little bit of an aftertaste, like a little spicy kick at the end. But the turmeric is definitely lighter than I thought it would be, which is why I added a little less of it. I mean, I like it. It tastes like the cinnamon matcha, to be honest. I think I have the vibe of this drink and a book that fits it. I think the vibe of this drink is that there's something hidden, right? Because the turmeric, you wouldn't know it was really there if I didn't tell you it was there. And I think that this book perfectly fits a book that I just got from the library, actually. And, you know, I did really want to find a way to make this fit with the book, I'm gonna be honest with you. But now that I've made this drink and I've tasted it, I actually think that it fits amazingly well. I'm kind of shocked at my brain blast. The Maid. The whole point of this book is that she's like a hidden figure within this book. Nobody notices the maid. I think it says that. It literally says in the first few sentences, I am your maid. I'm the one who cleans your hotel room, who enters like a phantom when you're out gallivanting for the day. The last sentence says, I am your maid. I know so much about you, but when it comes down to it, what is it that you know about me? Hidden. She's a hidden figure within this book, even though I'm pretty sure she's the main character. We're gonna read The Maid. Hello. I'm like a quarter of the way into The Maid, and it's fine. I don't get like 5-star feels from it right now. I am enjoying learning about The Maid. I'm forgetting her name. I think her name is Molly. Molly the Maid? It starts with an M because people are always like, oh my God, Molly the Maid. It's so funny. Ha 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 ha. And it's like, is it really that funny? I'm a quarter into it. I'm not like living, laughing, loving with this book. I was really expecting to just like be into it right away, just based off some reviews that I saw from people who have similar tastes to me. But the potential murder mystery aspect to this is really intriguing. I'm very curious what happened. You're also learning everything from Molly's perspective. So I'm not saying she's an unreliable narrator, because I don't necessarily think she's an unreliable narrator. She's just somebody who wasn't there for the whole situation. She just found the body. So I think you can't really consider her an unreliable narrator, because it's not like she's purposefully leaving things out. Anyway, I guess I should tell you what the book is about. Basically, you have potentially, her name is Molly, and she is a maid, and she's like very content being a maid. She likes things in order, and she's very regimented even in her everyday life. And you kind of know that Molly's struggling because she has financial issues and her grandmother recently passed away. But she really loves her job and she loves being a maid, and so she does take you through her routine of being a maid and like why she likes it, and some of the people who regularly stay at this hotel and the relationship she sort of has with them. And the one day she goes in to clean a room and one of her regulars is dead. And so obviously she's getting interviewed about what she saw and if anything was weird and what she knows about the wife of this man who died. And so far it's really interesting hearing her story about her relationship with the wife to this husband, because like it's obviously painting the wife to seem guilty of something, but at the same time it's showcasing the wife as like someone who's really understanding and just was kind of in a shitty situation based on who she was married to, because he wasn't like the greatest man. But something about the narration style I think is not doing it for me. Hello, good morning. So I finished The Maid the other day and I didn't really want to update right away because I wanted to read a few reviews before I did my review of this. And the reason for that was because I was very curious about something that's really embedded into this book that I wasn't like sure about. So our main character Molly, right? I had told you in my last update that part of her personality that's being portrayed is that she's very like regimented and she really likes routine, and a lot of people find her to be odd. Well, as you get like further into the book, the way that people treat her, I started to wonder if I'm supposed to be under this impression that Molly is autistic or neurodivergent. But this isn't really ever addressed. It's addressed in the way that people treat her, which I was very uncomfortable with at times, but it's also never addressed, like the author never talks about this, and I don't know anything about the author, so I'm not trying to judge anything about this book or what this author was trying to do because I don't know their backstory and I don't know where they're coming from. I just felt very uncomfortable by the way that people were treating Molly throughout this book. Like, she goes on a date at one point with one of the characters, and he is so annoying. He's so fucking annoying. And just the people around her, the way they treat her, they like treat her as if she's a child just because her social cues are different and the way that she interacts is different. And really what's different for her is that she's very straightforward. So I don't know. I just felt like slightly uncomfortable by this narrative. I will say there are really good parts. There are some characters in here that really are protective of Molly and have a lot of respect for Molly. I'm just glad that in the end she had a little found family, especially with the passing of her grandmother and her really trying to deal with that grief throughout the entirety of this book along with everything else. It was nice to see her have a happy ending in the end. Other than the treatment of the character in general, I didn't really like the writing style, and I think I said this before. There's something about the narration style that didn't really work for me in general, and I was not having a good time in the first like 30% of this book. So it just didn't work for me in so many different ways. And then I started to become very uncomfortable by the way that Molly was treated by the majority of the other characters. So I mainly settled on like a 3 stars, I guess. But part of me is also like, do I want to rate this? I don't know. So the next drink we have is a matcha lemonade, which I have had a matcha lemonade before, but I've never made one myself. I don't know when it was, but it was a few years ago in the summer. Pete's introduced matcha lemonade. I also think Starbucks had introduced them that year too, or maybe they were sooner. I didn't really go to Starbucks at the time since I had worked at Pete's for so long, and I got addicted to them. I loved them. Didn't think it was gonna be good. I didn't think a matcha and a lemonade was gonna be good, but it was. So matcha lemonades are pretty easy. You're gonna go through the same routine as you did before. You're going to pour your water, put in your matcha, and blend that up. This one you don't need sweetener because the lemonade is the sweetener, but if lemonade is maybe too tart for you, then you could add some simple syrup. I did not. And then you put in your ice and you pour over the lemonade. Okay, let's taste it. I do actually think I could use a little more lemonade in here. I was nervous to put too much lemonade because before, when I would get them at Pete's and stuff, the lemonade would be a little too sweet and I wanted it less sweetened, so I would put less lemonade. But I do think I would put a little more lemonade in here. So I feel like the vibe of a matcha lemonade is very summer. I know I've mentioned that in the other one, in the chia seed drink, I mentioned summer, but this specifically gives me summer vibes because lemonade and matcha are like a big thing for me, especially in the summer, but you combine the two and it just takes me back to the time that I discovered matcha lemonades and was like obsessed with them and would only get those during the summer, whenever that summer was. I think it was like 2018 or something. Wow, what a throwback. So while pirate books are very much something I think of for the summertime, I know that romance is actually huge summertime vibes. Most people love to read beachy romances whenever they can during the summer. So I think that I want to read a romance. And one of the romances that's been sticking out to me recently is That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon. I've seen the 2 books that are out in the series. I don't know if there's going to be any more. And I love the covers and the titles of them. And I just think it's going to be a really fun time. Hi, so I finished That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon in like one sitting. And so I didn't give you any updates about it because I was just really into it. Now, I fancy myself a non-romance reader, you know? But the thing is, I actually really love romance in fantasy settings. And I think the problem I have with contemporary romances is I get really bored. And I also think that obviously as a character-driven reader, if I'm not connected to the characters in the romance and I'm not rooting for the romance, then I'm just like, what's it all been about? But this was just really fun. You could say it's like a medieval Renaissance type setting. So basically in this like Renaissance medieval period, you have a main character named Cinnamon, and Cinnamon is just trying to live her life, you know? And she ends up getting drunk at this festival, and she's walking home, she hears something weird, stumbles upon a demon, and accidentally saves the demon. I say accidentally because demons are very feared in this society, so she doesn't really realize what she's doing. She goes home, and then the next day the demon comes to visit, and her whole family is like, what the fuck have you done? And she's like, I was kind of drunk. I didn't mean to do that at all. But it turns out that the actual cinnamon product, you know, cinnamon that you put on your pumpkin spice lattes, which is what her family grows, actually helps demons get out of this weird stupor that they're in. You kind of come to find out that maybe this goddess that all of these people have worshipped for years and years is a witch, and she's not a very good person. So Cinnamon agrees to go on an adventure with this demon. His name is Fallon, and they have a little relationship that unfolds. The things that I loved about it, it's very funny. It's very self-aware. And I just loved our main character. Like, I really loved her. I connected to her. And I love that a lot of the people in this book, this fantasy world, are Black or people of color. So like, it's not this whitewashed world. And I really loved that. There's like actually mentions of braids and curly hair. And I thought that the chemistry between the two love interests was really fun, because you have this really outgoing, funny main character, Cinnamon, and then you have this really brooding demon, and they just worked really well together. I mean, I don't know how other romances work. I do feel like this was kind of insta-lovey, obviously, but the book is short. It's like 120 pages. So I don't really know how else you would have done that in that time frame. But it didn't really bother me. And I'm not somebody who like loves insta-love by any means. I love pining and slow burn for sure. But it was really fun in this. And I think a lot of that had to do with the tone of this book just being so lighthearted and funny. And then the last thing that I absolutely loved about it, which is why I think I tend to love romance and fantasy, is there is an overarching plot here. Like, it's not just about these two main characters getting together, although that is like the primary plot point and that's what we focus on the most. But outside of them getting together, you're actually like learning about this world a little bit. It's an interesting world. I think it's an interesting premise that you have this goddess that people have worshipped forever, and maybe she's not what she says she is, and maybe the creatures that you have feared for your entire life aren't what they are said to be. And so I think that was an interesting plot point, and the fact that they go on an adventure, like many high fantasy books, adventure stories where people are traveling to a foe is very common. And so I think that was interesting to use that concept in a fantasy romance. So I love this. I definitely am giving it 5 out of 5 stars. I definitely want to move on to the second book. I hope that there's going to be more in this series. I know there's a second book and there is a novella. So I am really, really excited that I've found another fantasy romance that I just really enjoy. So I know that romance is not my problem. I just think contemporary is my problem. Like, I try to love contemporary books, but it's like I have to have a little bit more, and that's probably a me problem. I don't know. Anyway, I really love this. I'm glad that I read it, and they are now doing yard work, so I'm gonna go. But if you haven't read this, it's on Kindle Unlimited, so I highly recommend it, especially if you are a fantasy romance lover. So I couldn't do this video without doing at least one TikTok trend drink. And currently the trend is pretty intriguing to me because I am a lover of the original drink that they're trying to recreate. And I also have a hard time believing that this alternative actually works. It's 2 very disgusting ingredients to me. And that is balsamic and sparkling water. Apparently this is supposed to taste like a healthy Coke. So really, as you'll see on the screen, the ingredients literally are balsamic just the straight up one. I think vinaigrette is different than just the balsamic. And I poured a little bit in the bottom. I didn't want to go wild with it because I like balsamic like on salad, but like I'm not the biggest fan when there's too much. And then I just picked an orange LaCroix because, well, it was cheap. And secondly, I thought orange kind of fit with Coke. I don't really know. I'm really scared of this. The good thing is, maybe it's because I didn't add a lot of balsamic, but it smells just like the orange LaCroix. But as we know, sparkling water is a straight up liar, because sparkling water to me is just the thought of whatever fruit it's trying to be. The smell is always deceiving. I always think sparkling water is going to taste so good because it smells fine. Like it smells like orange, but it's not going to taste that way. I'm really scared of this. Maybe orange was a bad idea. You know what this tastes like? Balsamic. Anyway, that's not gonna be refreshing. So I actually have 3 book options for this monstrosity. So basically my thought process went in 3 different directions. The first thought process that I had with polarizing was a polarizing author for me because maybe I've read one of their books and I thought it was just fine, or I didn't really like it that much, but then I read another one of their books and I enjoyed it. So it's a polarizing author for me personally because I have liked something and disliked something, and that's T. Kingfisher. So the thing about T. Kingfisher is they have written all types of genres and all types of books. One of their most popular books was The Hollow Places, and I did read that for Summerween last year. I thought it was fine. I didn't really like it as much as everybody else. I think ultimately I gave it a 2.5 and rounded it to a 3 stars. There was just something about that book that didn't work for me, but I still really liked T. Kingfisher's writing. But I then picked up their fantasy series and I really enjoyed that book. So Nettle and Bone I got from the library instead of buying it because they have been a polarizing author for me. So I'm not sure if I'll like this, but this premise intrigues me more so than The Hollow Places did. The second way my brain went was similar to a polarizing read, but a polarizing read within booktube, but specifically my friend group. So I have a handful of friends who love this book, and then I have a couple friends who hated this book. And the thing is, I actually can't tell whether or not I'm gonna like this book because it is science fiction, first off, and secondly, the friends that hate it and the friends that love it, it's a mixed bag of people where I have like a very similar taste on both sides to these people. So the polarizing read is Iron Widow. I don't know if I'll like this. I have a weird time with science fiction, but I feel like it's mainly just science fiction that's set in space. So this is a very polarizing read among my friend group, but also I think booktube. So that's the second way my brain went. And then the third way my brain went was something that's like polarizing as an opinion, as a subject matter in general, and like also I think from what I know about this book, the characters go through like really polarizing thought processes about what's happening, and that's Notes on an Execution. So there is somebody on death row, which is a very polarizing topic among people politically, and from what I know, this is supposed to really pull the characters back and forth between their thoughts on what this man has done, which I believe he's on death row for murder. And I think one of the characters is supposed to be his wife or daughter or something like that. And so I think it could be very polarizing in what it makes you believe and how it pulls you back and forth between maybe feeling empathy for this person and not being empathetic toward this person. So that feels very polarizing to me. That's the third way my brain went. And then I'm either gonna put a poll up on Twitter or Instagram, or I'm gonna have my partner pick for me, or my cat. Any of those work. I have 1 vote for Iron Widow because Jared explained that he thinks the explanation I gave about Iron Widow makes more sense about the drink being polarizing among people, just like this book is polarizing among people. So 1 vote for Iron Widow. Let's ask Olive. Here's Olive. Here are the books. I don't know how long it's gonna take her to do this. I don't actually know how to get her to come here and do this because she doesn't even really like treats, so.
in your room, working on my first record. Skip to the present, and I still haven't released it. But it's okay, 'cause the new songs are way better. That's what it feels like, haven't been so.
I'm gonna count that. She's basically sitting on this one. So we got a poll up. We will see what happens. Hi, so I don't know if I actually officially announced it, but Iron Widow won the polls. So I've been reading Iron Widow. I am about halfway through, and it's really interesting because I hate the writing style in here. There's something about it that I do not connect with, and for the most part, I don't love the characters so far. Like, I like them, and I feel like I could really enjoy them, and I've also heard there's polyamory in here, so I think I know who that's gonna happen with, and it makes me excited because I actually like that one character a lot, but I'm not fully connected to the characters, don't really like the writing style, but this plot has me sucked in. I always feel like a revenge plot sucks me in more quickly than anything else, and this has a revenge plot in it, and so I'm like, I need to know where this is going. I need to know what's gonna happen. So in this world, they're fighting basically this unseen alien entity. Like, they're aliens invading Earth and they're fighting against them. We don't really know that much about the aliens. It really hasn't been explained much. The only thing we know is that they're fighting against them, and they have built up technology in order to fight against them. So this technology is like these big chrysalises that are robotic, and they're powered by these pilots. So in each chrysalis there should be a male and a female pilot. The male pilot is usually the one who is doing most of the action. The female pilot is there as, you could say, support. It's a very sexist society, so a lot of the women in here actually die when doing these missions because the men suck the chi out of them. Like, they purposefully lose control because they don't care about women in this society, and she's under this impression that there is a way that you can have equal power, but they refuse to do that. She's especially fueled by the fact that her sister is one of the concubines who died. So she decides to leave her family and enlist to be a concubine so that she can kill the person who killed her sister. Once she gets there, she kind of realizes that she's really fucking powerful, and they're like, wow, you're one of the most powerful concubines we have come across. We need to pair you with this equally very powerful man. People think he's pretty much a murderer, that he killed his whole family, that he's just a bad dude, and she's really nervous about it. And that's kind of where I'm at. They've met each other, they have a weird relationship. He's kind of an alcoholic, and you don't know fully his origin story, why people think the way they do of him. And then also there's this whole mystery of why is she so powerful? I think that the plot is very interesting. I love a revenge plot. I actually think this is a very unique premise to me. I haven't read anything remotely similar to this. So I really like those aspects, and I'm very curious about the polyamory that will hopefully take place in here because it's talked about a lot. But I struggle with the writing style because it makes this book less interesting to me. It makes it cheesy in ways. And so I've read it physically, I've listened to the audiobook, and I just feel, I don't know. I'm having a very hard time. And the characters are fine, and I don't know if they're just fine because the dialogue is kind of something to be desired, or if they are just fine, they're not characters I'm connected to. I don't really know, but I have hope that I could like this because the plot really sucked me in. I read the first quarter of this, first half of this almost, in just a few hours because I was really into it. It's definitely sucked me in, but I do find myself giggling at how cheesy some of the writing is. Hello, I just got back from work and on my break I was able to finish Iron Widow, and I think that this is a 3 stars because there are a lot of things in here that really bothered me, but I've been trying to keep in mind that this is a debut novel, and I do think that this author has a lot of potential to become a really great writer. It's just that the writing in this is not good. It's not good, it's very cheesy, and it took me out of the story personally. And it's really funny because I normally find that I'm not super picky about writing styles, but when the writing style really prevents me from getting into the story, that's when I have a problem, and I guess like an opinion about writing styles, because normally I just like go with the flow. There are some writing styles that obviously work better for me than others, but I don't often mention it in my reviews because I'm not a writer, and I know that you don't have to be a writer to understand good writing, but like my definition of good writing versus somebody else's definition of good writing who probably is a writer and studies writing in some form or pays attention to writing in some form is going to have a better and more well-rounded opinion on writing and prose than I am. I don't feel like my opinion is super valid. Obviously, I can tell you when something works for me and what doesn't work for me, and I feel like this writing style just doesn't work for me. There's just a level of cheesiness in here and a level of kind of preaching at you that gets overwhelming and sort of takes over the plot, and the plot is my favorite part of this book, so that was what was really difficult. Is the plot really sucked me in right away. I read this book in like a day and a half, and sure, it's not a large book, but like sometimes with fantasy and sci-fi I try to take it a little bit slower so that I can take in the world and how the characters are interacting with the world and like magic systems. But this, I was just like flying through it because I wanted to know what happens, and I really liked that in the beginning of this book you have a specific plot that's unfolding, which is a revenge story, and then it completely shifts by the middle of the book and turns into something else. And I really enjoyed that. It kept me really engaged, and it's what made me want to finish the book. Other than that, like I really enjoy the characters and I enjoy the polyamory. I think it's really exciting that in the future of this series you're definitely going to be exploring more of that polyamorous relationship, and I think that this author is going to do a really good job with that because I was already very convinced and rooting for this polyamorous relationship. Although I will say that people try to sell you on that with this book, but I feel like the polyamory is not that big of a part of this book. For how much people talk about it, I definitely thought that it was going to be a bigger part of this book, and it doesn't come in until much later in the book, I'll just say that. Like, there are hints at it, obviously. I do think the author tries to build up the tension of that and sort of hint to you that this is going to happen. So it's not like it's unexpected by any means, but like the way people talk about it, I thought I had different thoughts about things. I do feel like ultimately this book leaves a lot to be desired. I feel like I didn't know anything about the world. If anything, you could say this is a really good foundational book. Maybe this goes back to the writing style just because this writing isn't as strong and the world building isn't as strong. Maybe it just all ties back to the ability to write this in a way that fully makes sense, because I had a lot of questions by the end of this book, and I don't think that I missed them in the beginning of the book. I don't know if I will move on with this series, to be honest, because I did like the characters, but I don't know if I love them enough to want to read more about them in another book, and I don't think the polyamory in here is gonna push me into another book where I just don't enjoy the writing and I'm not like that invested in the characters. So this is really sad for me because this is actually a 5-star prediction. I did genuinely think that I would be in the group that loved this book, but I did not. So okay, hi. So I had this bright idea that because Erin has pretty much sent me more than half of these drink reels that I'm making, that I would let her send me a drink that she wants me to make and a book that she wants me to read. So the book doesn't necessarily mean it's going to match the vibes of the drink that she chooses for me, but yeah, it's going to be her choosing the book and the drink. Okay, so the drink that Erin picked was a dirty matcha, which I'm nervous about. I will take you through how this is made. So you actually have to prep for this one. I did this the night before and I made espresso and added some water to it as the recipe said. I think it was 2 shots of espresso and 2 ounces of water. You add the water to it, you put them in the ice trays. I only did 6 of them, I believe, because I knew I would probably not be doing this all week since I am not a coffee drinker regularly. And then you just make the matcha as we have been doing this entire video. I added vanilla this time. Vanilla is one of my favorite syrups that goes in matcha. And then, you know, water matcha, you whiz it up. I decided to froth my milk. I don't always do this with my matchas, actually. I go back and forth between whether or not I want it to be foamy or not. This drink though, specifically in the video, ends with them topping it with whipped cream. And the thing is, I hate whipped cream. I know, please save your gasps. Please quiet down in the crowd. I don't like whipped cream. I'm a texture phobe, so I hate whipped cream. So I asked Erin, I said, can I just not do the whipped cream? And she said, yeah, your foam will do. So that was another reason I foamed this bad boy up. So yeah, the ice cubes will melt and make it more coffee-like over time. I'm gonna sip it now. The ice cubes have melted a little bit, so it should have some of that coffee flavor. I have seen dirty matchas before. If you don't know what that expression means in a coffee shop, like if you see a dirty chai or a dirty matcha, it just means that they've added espresso to it. So it could be 1 shot, 2 shots, depending on the size, depending on the place. So this is a version of a dirty matcha. I've never thought that a dirty matcha would taste good, if I'm honest with you. Grassy and acidic. I don't know. Although strawberries are acidic and they went really well with this, actually fruit flavors end up going really well with matcha. But I'm gonna trust the process. We need to stop stalling. I need to try it. Also, I don't know if I mentioned that I had Erin pick the last book as well. So the book is not going to be based off of vibe. I'm pretty sure it's not based off of vibe. I'm pretty sure she picked them because they're 2 books she wants me to read. So she gave me 2 books and I get to choose between the 2. She doesn't know which one I'm picking. This is fun. We're having fun. This is the weird, not in a bad way. It's not bad at all. It's just weird because it's 2 flavors, like 2 distinct flavors, coffee and matcha. I'm sure if you've had both, you know, they're both very distinct flavors. And like you get one at the beginning and then you get the coffee one at the end. I don't hate it. I actually kind of like it. But like the thing about coffee for me is that like I get sick of the flavor of coffee when I'm drinking it over time. Because I don't know how to explain it. I know that sounds weird. Anyway, this is good. I mean, if you like matcha and you like coffee a lot, the combination's not bad. That's all I'm saying. Erin chose 2 books for me. The first one being Unsold, which is the beginning of a fantasy series. I think the 8th book, 10th book, I don't know. Like a lot of books later is coming out soon. So they're all on Kindle Unlimited right now. I do have the first 3 audiobooks of this, and I do know that they're like shorter fantasies, like they're maybe 200 pages or something like that each. The audiobooks are maybe 8 hours long, so it would be a quick fantasy read. And then the next book is Tripping Arcadia, so we have very different vibes going on. Tripping Arcadia, I believe, is a gothic novel. I don't know if that means gothic horror or it just has gothic vibes. I'm pretty sure a gothic novel strictly means horror, but I'm really hoping so. I did purchase this book because I love gothic horrors. I like the slow build. I like the eeriness of gothic horrors. So that is the second pick. I don't actually remember the full synopsis for Tripping Arcadia, and I don't really want to know. I just knew it was a gothic horror and I wanted to read it. I needed it. I wanted it. So the thing is, right, I could choose one of these 2 books based on my feelings about this, right? The one that I think fits the most. But as we've seen through this video, I can also make up a reason to read a specific book. I could just make it up. I am very good at stretching things, as we've learned. As I've been editing this video, because I edit for the most part as I go, I'm really good at stretching shit, you know? I'm really good at stretching the vibe. So like we could argue the fantasy, it's probably gonna be a grim dark fantasy. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it'll probably be a grim dark fantasy because I know Erin and I our fantasy tastes line up in the sense that we really like tragic, grim, dark fantasies. It was black coffee, dark. Is that a vibe? But you could argue that Tripping Arcadia, gothic horror, there's something lingering underneath the surface. There's something eerie about this. This looks like a regular matcha, but there's something lingering in it. It's coffee. Coffee is lingering under the surface. You would never guess it. It's eerie. It's a little bit eerie how it tastes. How it tastes like matcha when you first sip it down, and then the aftertaste, the afterbirth, if you will, just hits you with coffee, you know? So I can make an argument for both. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm leaning towards Tripping Arcadia because do I have time right now at this point in my life when Robin Hobb is the forefront to start another series that has like 1 million books? Erin already tried to get me to start Zodiac Academy and then she read them all. So I don't know if that's gonna happen for me. I'm gonna say it. This drink is weird. Therefore, we're gonna read Tripping Arcadia because this is weird. It's not bad. It's not a bad weird. It's just weird. I'm not saying something shouldn't be combined because this isn't a horrible concoction. It's actually pretty delicious, as you can tell, because I'm sucking it down so fast. But like, I'm also confused by it. Hello. I just got my hair cut the other day and they always straighten it and it's weird. I can't stop touching my hair. Anyway, I'm here to update you because I am halfway through Tripping Arcadia by Kit McQuiston. I'm enjoying it now. I think the beginning I was really into it and I was like interested in where it was going. And then up into the halfway point, I was getting a little bored. It felt like the author was kind of telling you exactly what was gonna happen. So I was like, where is this story gonna go from here if you already know what's gonna happen? And then you kind of reach close to the halfway point and the thing that she's talking about happens, but it's just the catalyst for a bunch of other things that start to unfold that become more important than this original idea that you kind of think is going to be the plot. That's so convoluted. So Tripping Arcadia is about our main character, Lena. She's in medical school, but she ends up dropping out of medical school like right before she's gonna graduate, mainly because her father is really struggling right now. He had an accident and she feels the need to go home and like kind of help out. So while she's home, one of the things that she wants to do is get a job. And so she starts applying to medical positions where she can kind of fake that she has her medical degree. And she ends up landing this job with this really prestigious family in the area named the Verdeaux. Basically, her job is to take care of the youngest son. He seems to be really sick. She doesn't know what's happening. She's just kind of told to do these specific tasks for him and give him this medication, but she doesn't know exactly what illness he has, and they kind of keep it a secret. She's under the impression they keep it a secret because a lot of his life has been in the tabloids because he has sort of acted out, and there's been a lot of things in the tabloids about him that are not that great. So she's under the impression they're not telling her because they don't know her that well, and she might spread some gossip, I guess. So she just takes this on because she's like, what else am I gonna get with my fake ass degree? And she quickly learns that her job is a lot more complex than just taking care of the youngest son because the Verdeaux have really intense parties. Orgies, if you will, ragers, lots of drugs, lots of tripping out. And she's like, I don't think I'm cut out for this, but she gets cut a fat check and is like, maybe I am cut out for this. And it's just wild. Things are going off the rails at times, but that's not as often as you would think, especially considering the premise of this book. It's far and few between that you get to hear about these parties. Like, you're there and certain things are happening, but the first party scene that you get was really intense. Like, it was kind of hard for me to get through just because it made me feel so uncomfortable. But the following party scenes aren't so much, because our main character Lena sort of has this goal in mind, so you're focusing on that a little bit more. I would say that this is very slow paced. It's interesting, but it's very slow paced, and so I found myself getting a little bit bored between certain situations. Right now I'm a little more interested and I'm like 100 pages from the end, but this is definitely that gothic feel where it's very slow. There's some tension, but it doesn't have that super eerie feeling throughout the entirety of the book like I have normally felt in a lot of gothic horrors. So I feel like this isn't necessarily a gothic horror. And I was rereading the synopsis and they were like comparing it to The Allure of Great Gatsby and calling it like a modern gothic tale. So I don't actually know that this is supposed to have horror elements in it. I think there are just like horrific and eerie moments to it, but it's not horror. So I definitely went in with a different impression of what this book is, but I think that's my fault because when I see gothic, I'm immediately like, oh, gothic horror. But that's not really what this is. Maybe the ending will be different and I will change my mind about that, but as it stands right now, I don't feel like it's a gothic horror. Hello! So I finished Tripping Arcadia. I don't have the book in here, but I am going to settle on like a 3.5, maybe 4 stars. Like I said in the beginning, I feel like there is some pacing in here that just didn't work for me. Like there's a lot of slow moments, but to be fair to the book, it does tell you that it's a gothic novel. So I do feel like that is pretty expected. And I do partially feel like the ending payoff and what you find out kind of warrants the slow pace of this. But I do think there's a lot of time focused on certain things that I just didn't care about, and I don't really see why I should have cared about even by the end. But I actually really liked our main character. I liked her knowledge of things. I think she's dumb to some degree. Her naivete with certain situations, and like especially this family who's been known to do pretty shitty things to other families and like to other people that work within this company. To know that they have a shady past and to be so trusting and naive in certain circumstances was really interesting to me. But I think it speaks to her age, but also her thinking that she's smarter than she actually is at times. But I personally really like the reveal of this. I think that it was a really interesting reveal and it was slightly unexpected for me, which I really love. I love when a book can have a twist that's a bit unexpected, but you also at the same time are like, okay, I could piece that together if I went back and reread this. There are definitely hints there, but at the same time, it's like not enough to be in your face and you can predict what's gonna happen, which I really like because sometimes I feel like authors go real hard on the red herrings, and this definitely wasn't like that at all. But I really appreciated this ending, and I also appreciated like the very end of it, you know, not just the reveal and everything that happens in the aftermath, but like almost the epilogue part of it, which I don't even know if it was called an epilogue. I'll have to double check, but it's like the epilogue part of it. I really liked that epilogue, and I wonder if people would think it's cheesy, but I really liked it. I'm really excited to see what else that this author ends up doing because from my knowledge, this is a debut. So I'm really interested to see what this author ends up doing in the future. That is the last book for the drink vlog. I hope that you enjoyed this silly experiment. What did I learn from it? Nothing. There's no takeaway from this except that it's fun to try to pair books with drinks. And I think next time I would like to make a wider variety of drinks instead of just matchas. But in this case, it all stemmed from making different types of matchas. So if you like this video and you think that you would like to see something like this again, but with a wider variety of drink options, then I would be really happy to do that for you at some point in time. Probably with less drinks, you know. I'd probably do a lot less drinks. Things got a little out of control, and I can admit to that. If you've made it this far and you have nothing to say, please just leave a drink emoji of your choice, whatever that may be, down below, and I will talk to you next time. Bye!